Welcome to Tea Time Talks. This is the first one of our summer talks. It's a very different weather out there. It's nice and warm. It's daylight. Very pleased to be here this evening. We're going to have a 30-minute discussion, and this evening we're going to talk about the final product. It's about what do we do with the cattle once we've spent the time and effort rearing them, finishing them. Where do we need to send them to? What's the best place to achieve that? Very pleased that we've been joined this evening from Morrisons. We've got George Clapham and we've got Jess Tomley. We're also joined this evening by James Dixon, beef farmer in Cumbria. Everybody's going to introduce themselves shortly. Also this evening, we've got Katie. Katie, give us a wave. She's from the Stabiliser Cattle Company. Most of you know Katie. And Ursula, give us a wave. Ursula from the Stabiliser Cattle Company as well. Now, what's going to happen is as we go through, if anybody's got any questions for us as we're going through, then please stick them in the question and answer section. That's down on the bottom or up on the side. There's a question and answer box. Anybody's got anything they want asking as we're going through the presentation this evening, stick them straight in there. Ursula's going to monitor that for us, and whenever we see Ursula pop back up, it means that there's a question that is going to be needed to be asked. As I said, we are live on Facebook tonight, so if you miss out or you've got to nip off because you've got cows calving, there will be an opportunity to catch up with that again on Facebook. Right, so let's kick things off. The relationship the Stabiliser Cattle Company have with Morrisons is a fairly long relationship. We started about 8 years ago, and we've been working quite closely ever since. It's a fantastic opportunity for people to get the best return for the product, and we've been really pleased on how it's going. And what the whole aim of tonight is to have an open and frank discussion about what the scheme is, how it all works, how do we get cattle booked in, what happens. And so as we go through this next 30 minutes, hopefully it's all going to work out of what's going on there. So first up, let me ask George if you could do a little bit of an introduction on yourself, and then do you want to just give us a bit of an overview on Morrisons, please, George?
Yeah. Firstly, thanks for having us. It's great to be talking to you all here. We like to be on farm, but we know learned in the last 12 months it's been difficult, but we've learned to deal with it. And but yeah, it's great to be talking to you. Just going to have a brief overview about Morrisons and what we're doing as a wider company, as well as a meat company as Woodhead Brothers. So I'll just kick off with Morrisons. So we're the UK's fourth largest retailer with 496 stores. That's nearly 12 million customers per week and over 100,000 colleagues. We're also one of the largest fresh food manufacturers in the UK, which is probably something not everyone knows. So we are a retail, but we're also a food manufacturer. So we have 19 manufacturing sites across the UK. 3 of them being Woodhead Brothers, which most of you will be aware of. So I'm moving into Morrisons livestock and meat teams then. We're working directly with over 2,000 suppliers. We have an annual spend of around 450 million on British livestock. Within ourselves, we're a young progressive team, maintaining our strong links and reputation what we've built over the years as Woodhead Brothers, the Woodhead Brothers name. And we have a genuine interest in the progression of our suppliers. And I think on the back of that, we've developed a strong supply base and a loyal supply base that also have a genuine interest in the progression of our company. And the suppliers have been a big part of that. So we're sourcing British livestock into 3 abattoirs. We've got Lincolnshire, Aberdeenshire and Lancashire. So with 9 livestock buyers procuring cattle, sheep and pigs. So we're providing our customers with 100% British fresh meat for our customers. So just tapping into beef sales, I suppose. So for 2020, we saw over 7% growth in beef sales year on year. 40% of that growth of the over 7% was actually built through steak cuts. And that was driven sort of on the back of the promotions that we led in order to keep the carcass balanced. And I guess, yeah, I mean, 2020 was a great year for selling meat, but it didn't come without its difficult or its challenges. The biggest thing, I suppose, at the start was balancing that carcass. And what I mean by that is, when the pandemic hit, a lot of mince was sold, and not so much steak cuts, and that was partly to do with the food service closing. So on the back of that, we saw the opportunity or the need to get those steaks sold. So we put a lot of promotions out there to really drive that forward. So I guess that's sort of part of the 40% growth within the 7% growth year on year of our meat sales. That was really important to keep things ticking. So our trading teams within Morrisons very much focused on delivering great customer service and supporting British agriculture is what we're all about. So whilst other retailers, they're sort of closing their meat counters, we actually relaunched ours in 2020 and sort of we had a grand reopening announcing a summer of barbecue and steak bars, which again is sort of gets back to the carcass balance point that I was talking about. So we're really keen on driving that customer service and also supporting British agriculture, which is, yeah, as I say, what we're all about.
That's brilliant, George. Thank you very much for that. Do you want to just briefly introduce yourself and your role within the
sorry
team?
about that. Yeah, so my name is George Clapham. I am a livestock buyer for Woodhead Brothers or Morrisons. I'm sort of based out of our Colne site in Lancashire, but I'll spend 50-50. I'll spend a bit of time in the office, a bit of time in the factory, and a bit of time on the road. So a bit of a balance.
Good. And look, at the end, if anybody wants to catch up with George, we'll share on all George's contact details afterwards. Thanks for that, George. The other person from Morrisons we're very pleased to join us this evening is Jess. Jess, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a brief overview?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. So I'm Jess Tomley. So I'm also a beef and lamb buyer at Morrisons. I actually joined last October. So I'm still the newbie in the business, but previously has worked with within the industry at other abattoirs as well, and did a brief stunt at Farm Assurance. So I'm glad to be back in the red meat trade. I think it's what I enjoy, and also from a farming background in Shropshire, sheep, beef and arable, and we have got some stabilisers as well. Dad is trying out, but we'll see how we get on with them.
Good.
So I am kind of based like George in the office, spend probably half my time there and out about on farm, and also supporting on projects. So one project I would like to discuss with you today is our net zero project. So you might be aware or heard that Sophie Throop, Head of Agriculture, announced at the beginning of this month that we are being quite ambitious and would like to reach net zero by 2030 for our own supply chain. And as George said, Morrisons is a very unique supermarket and we're integrated. So we buy a lot direct off farm and process everything through our factories, which makes us the biggest supermarket buying British off farm for our customers. And that's why we feel, we're in a great position to show support and leadership and help promote, the benefits of being net zero on farms and the benefit of the farmers by working with us. So we think it's a great opportunity and want to work with our suppliers. And we've had a lot of feedback from suppliers as well, taking an interest in net zero and want to understand what their carbon footprint is on farm as well. Because we want to be able to show our customers that, we have great produce, our farmers do a great job, we want to be sustainable, ensure animal welfare and looking after the environment. And I think it is really important that, our suppliers understand this is a massive ask and a massive ambition as well. But I think it's a great opportunity as suppliers, as some of you may be, to work with us and be involved, because we want to hear from you. And work along with you to make your business successful and be forward thinking as a business, which will also obviously hopefully help your business in other areas. When we look at the carbon credit that government is looking at, working with us and having our support could benefit and open other doors to support your business. We obviously don't know anything. We obviously don't know everything. So that's why we've partnered up with some of the best brains in the business, leading vet companies, academics such as Hartwell Abens, and obviously working with the experts from Map of Ag to understand the measurements on farm and how to work out emissions. And basically it's all about working to get the emissions from livestock, feed and fuel as low as possible, but also looking at other areas as land and trees to how we can store carbon and support farms to get as low as possible when it comes to net zero. And I think beef is a really good example because it's probably the most complex and probably the most difficult, and the one what gets the most press on when it comes to what the general public think. So we've made a massive commitment that we are putting the money where our mouth is, and are investing in experts to help our farmers find measuring systems, offer skills and learning and research to help our farmers reach net zero. But also setting up a school of sustainability for farming with Harper Adams, which is a great opportunity to run research, learn from our trials and obviously practices, what we can roll out to current suppliers and our future farmers. Also, we're looking at creating a seeing and believing farm. You know, I'm a big believer in farmers seeing with their own eyes, talking to each other, understanding where improvements can be made. So we are also going to be helping one of our suppliers to create this farm, or offer loads of opportunities for other farmers to learn from. As well as this, we are running a number of project groups with our suppliers to get their feedback. And obviously every farm is different, and I think this is going to be the biggest challenge for us. So we want to learn as much as possible to support our suppliers and show their learnings to them. We'll be looking at improving health, fertility, breed choices, and even running training courses and looking at different methods of feed as well. Now, as you guys, I'm very much aware that stabilisers are very forward thinking when it comes to carboning. You've done a lot of work as well. So I think it's a great opportunity, you know, to work together and build that relationship to support, and you're probably already on the foundations to reaching your goal as well. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jess. I mean, I must admit, I wouldn't be the only one when we saw the press release a few weeks ago and the goals and the targets that Morrisons are setting out to achieve. I think it's going to be a really exciting journey. And yeah, hopefully we will work together on that journey to get down to it. Now, the other thing is, Jess, I think from what you've just highlighted, we could spend 30 minutes easily talking about that. So what we might have to do is to do another one later in the year, purely on what that sustainability goal is. And, you know, it's another topic entirely. But yeah, really interested. And I'm sure that everybody will be really interested to get into that in more detail later in the year. Now, the final panelist that is joining us this evening, last but no means least, we've got James Dixon from Cumbria. He's a beef farmer in Cumbria. I'll let James, if you could just introduce yourself, please, James, and give us a very brief overview on your farm and farming system, please.
Yeah, it will be very brief. Yeah, with family farm up here in Cumbria. I'm the 6th generation. My son's the 7th, so we've been here quite a while. Quite unusual farming partnership, myself and 2 brothers, and also 2 sons as well now, albeit one of them's not full-time yet. He's an electrician by trade, but he's coming back slowly. We farm with 2,000 free-range hens. We lamb about 1,500 sheep, mostly swales and mules, and then we carve in about 180 stabilisers. We've been in stabilisers since, I think, 2000. But yeah, we're in fairly early on. I can't just think now it was. We've been in a long time. Put embryos in. We've been selling these last 2 or 3 years everything entire is bull beef. Before that, we're on steers, and everything basically that's in spec goes to Morrisons.
Fantastic. Look, and I'm sure there are going to be loads of questions on as we go through. For you, James, from that practical aspect side of things of how that works. Why do we do beef? Well, why do we do bull beef, and why don't you do steers? But before we get too far down that road, I'm conscious we're kind of halfway through now, so we best get on to the reason why we're here, is to promote the scheme that we've set up, you know, a number of years ago, and we just want to make sure that everybody's aware of it. So, George, do you want to just run through what that scheme is?
Yeah, great. So I guess the Morrisons Stabiliser Scheme it's a partnership between Morrisons and the Stabiliser Cattle Company, and it's providing a great outlet for stabiliser producers to sell their bulls, heifers, steers, whatever that may be, however it suits your system. We like the stabilisers, really. I mean, the great product. They're very consistent in weight. They're younger carcasses, very consistent in grading, and a very high percentage hitting spec, which is just what we want. You know, you have your specs for a reason, and that's because you can sell a lot of meat within that spec. So the spec that we lay out for the stabilisers, we feel is very much suited to the nature of the breed, how they're going to finish, and it's also very much suited to how we want to sell meat. So it's providing us with a good product for our customers. I guess selling ourselves a little bit. Woodheads is a great package for outlet for your bulls, heifers, or steers. We're very consistent in pricing, very stable, no matter the trade, whether it's falling or rising. With fast 7-day payment terms, straightforward, simple booking system with myself and Ursula. As I've said, a very easily achieved specification that suits the breed. We offer our own haulage service, which is very slick and professional. And I guess a big selling point that I feel to selling stock into Morrisons or Woodheads is that you're working with people and an organisation that really are supporting the British farming industry, which, we are here for the long run. We're here to support you in the good times and the bad times. And yeah, we're having some good times at the moment, but bad times will come, and we'll be there, and we'll support, and we'll be stable. Yeah, really positive about the scheme. Really encouraged to get going and keep doing more as we have been doing so the last few years.
Fantastic. Thanks, George. Now, for anybody that's not aware, and you highlighted there that there's some fairly tight sort of specs to get into. Let me just bring up what the specs are, George, and then do you want to just talk us through? Those, please?
Yeah, so we can see it there. So yeah, I mean, we're talking about bull beef. We like the bulls. They hang up. I'll tell you straight. They hang up like a steer. The nice bit of cover into them, and they suit our job perfectly. You could have a run of stabiliser bulls. I've been in the fridge before. There can be 35 bulls there that coming from a supplier, and everyone looks the same as the last one. It's a bit like walking down the pig line, but more interesting. So anyway, the bulls, we're wanting the bulls between 12 and 14 months of age, which talking with Seth and Ursula and Katie, it seems to be an optimum time to sell those bulls before they're peaking out and slowing down in growth rates. So we're wanting them between 12 and 14 months. Weight range on the bulls, we're wanting between 300 and 400 kilos, which again is easily achievable, and we have a very good percentage of in-spec. And then the grading, we're wanting R3s and 4Ls or better, and again, they're falling into that spec nicely. Heifers a very similar spec, although a slightly wider weight band, so we can take the heifers and the steers sort of more like 270 to 400 kilos, and an age, obviously with them not being bulls, we can take them up to a higher age, so 12 to 30 months. And then the grading, we're looking for something similar. So obviously all cattle have to be 90-day farm assured as a minimum, and we also have a requirement of 40-day residency on the final holding, which I imagine wouldn't be too much of an issue to most stabiliser producers. So I think a simple spec, easily achieved with the breeding that the stabiliser have.
Fantastic, thanks, George. And look, I know if anybody's listening and they've got stabilisers, they'll know that actually they are fairly achievable. But rather than me tell you that, so James, can you just give us a little bit of an overview about what you send, how often you send it, and why it works for you, please?
We just send we're a little wagon, a 16-foot wagon, so we can manage to get 5 in that and be legal. So we take them, it takes us about 3 hours or just over there and back, 40 quid of the fuel. So that's why we do it ourselves. And we just take 5 at a time. And we just we keep weighing them and look at the ages and book them in through Ursula 5 at a time.
Yeah.
Over the years, there's been very few that haven't actually gone. There'll be only maybe half a dozen a year that aren't going to expect, which is ones that have either been lame or done whatever else. And we get shot of them wherever we go. But we only take what's going to go into spec to Morrisons. Anything that isn't, we don't.
Mm-hmm. And so, you know,
they all hit it, yeah.
That 300 kilos, 300 to 400 kilos at 12 to 14 months, is that achievable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're nearly, I would say 90% of them are 4s rather than 3s.
Yeah. And
we'll be past 50% to be better than ours.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm assuming, George, that's one of the reasons that you like the cattle, is it? Because there is that fat cover on them, and they've got the young age, and they've got the conformation.
Yeah, well, I mean, between 12 and 14 months, they haven't really, as a carcass, developed the bull-like characteristics, and they've got the bit of fat cover that we require to, you know, fall into a similar spec to the rest of our cattle. Look, I mean, Woodheads, Morrisons, we're buying cattle for largely a certain job, which is to supply Morrisons with beef. We do have external sales as well, yeah, but largely we are supplying Morrisons with beef. So you got to think about, like, we have a certain job for that. I suppose over the years our specifications of Woodheads has been relatively tight, so we buy what we buy. The Stabiliser bulls has slipped into that quite nicely, or very nicely, to be honest. And as I say, they fall into our spec. They do what steers do for us, and they do what heifers do for us within that weight range and within that age bracket. Mm-hmm. And as it sort of suits the breeding nicely, I think it's a great outlet for producers.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, you know, obviously we promote the use of bulls and bull beef quite heavily, and the sole reason for that is on the efficiency of those animals. You know, James, have you always sold bull beef, or do you make the move since going to Stabiliser?
No, we weren't bull beef. Well, if you go back to when we were dairy farm, we were bull beef with the Holsteins, and that's kind of, we were there. And then we went to Stabilisers and sold them as stores, as steers. And then we got to finishing them, and then we've moved on to the bull beef system. It just suits us. Being over on the west, we have to buy our grain in and stuff, so we're always buying. We can't grow our own, so the faster we get them finished, the better.
Yeah,
it's room. They just go a lot earlier. It's 6 months faster, and we don't need the space.
You don't have to worry about that grazing in the second summer.
No, they don't. They go straight out and straight out of the building, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I know we've got a few questions coming through, and I'm sure that Ursula will be popping up very shortly to ask some of these. But just before we see Ursula, how does it work, George? So if you're a farmer and you've got some Stabiliser cattle, you want to get them on the system, what do people need to do?
So the way it works is pick up the phone, give Ursula a call, say, look, I've got some cattle ready to go. The more notice you can give, the better, ensuring you get your cattle away when you want to do. But ultimately, we are taking the cattle on a weekly basis, various volumes. But yeah, so pick up the phone, give Ursula a call, say, look, I've got these cattle for this date. This is how many I've got. Ursula will speak to me. We'll sort the haulage out. We'll book them in for a day that suits you, and the cattle will be away. You'll be paid within 7 days of processing, and your kill data will be on Farmline, our farm portal, from 6:30 of the same day's kill, and your payment certificate will be available 6:30 the second day's kill, the day after. So it's as simple as that. It's a straightforward process. And it works, I would say, like clockwork.
Fantastic, that's great. And is there any limitations on any of the sites, George, or is it all sites?
Sorry, no, there's no limitations. You can go to Spalding, Cohen or Turriff. There's no limitation.
Fantastic. Well, look, Ursula's just popped up, so that probably means we've got a few questions. Ursula.
Couple, yes. I hope it's not a trick question here. We had a question from Northern Ireland. I know you used to have cattle in from Northern Ireland. And sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but what's the situation with cattle from Northern Ireland at present, George?
Well, I mean, there's no situation. I mean, to be honest, at the moment, we're not sourcing any cattle from Northern Ireland. It doesn't mean that we can't or won't. But the best thing to do is, away from the call, we'll have a chat about it, look at the logistics, and see how it'll work.
Okay, thank you. Because I know you used to. Okay, and the other thing, one of the other questions was eating quality. Are you looking at eating quality and different types of grading?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the question there is on: are we looking at the grading? Are we going to go away from Europe system and are we going to look at an eating quality type grading system? I think at the moment there isn't that much work being done on that, but I definitely think that we should be going down that route. Now, the Europe system is very much derived from yield-based qualities, which as a processor, yes, that's very important, because what you get out from what bones are left and what meat's left is key to ensuring that a bone in all pays. But end to end, when you're retailing as well, you've absolutely got to look at eating quality. So I think that's something that we're working on as a livestock team, going forwards as part of our sort of wider, longer term plan and how that can work.
Yeah, and I think that we're obviously, from a breeding side of things, always making sure that that's the case as well. So that eating quality, if you're in a position to start looking at how and whatever changes that might be, hopefully the stabilizer is going to be in a position to maximize the returns for that one.
Absolutely. And look, we're in a great position. We've got this meat sales. We're selling beef directly to suppliers. We're working directly to customers. We're working directly with suppliers. We're on farms. We can see the whole picture. So we're great. We're very well placed to look at these things. And we're also encourage feedback from suppliers. Anything that you think we should be doing, or whether we can help you in improving the way you do things. We're hands on. We want to listen. Fantastic.
That's great. Now, one thing that I'm just conscious of, George, is we've not talked about what is in it for the farmer. Are there any bonuses on this one?
Yeah. So we offer on our standard grid, we offer steer and heifer bonuses above our base price. But what we also do with the stabilizer bull within the spec that we've shown is we pay the bulls on a steer price, including the steer premium.
Yeah, fantastic. So just to reiterate that, in case anybody missed it, it's the steer and heifer price, but on the bulls.
It's the steer price on the bulls, yeah. So heifers are on a slightly different price. The steers are on the same. So the stabilizer bulls will achieve steer price within the spec. Yeah,
fantastic, great, good. Now I'm just conscious that nearly is 30 minutes. So before we go, Ursula, any more questions that we need to get through? The fact that she's not, I'm assuming, perhaps not the case. Now, look, if anybody wants to get in touch with anybody that's been on this webinar this evening, then I'm just putting up the contact details. So if you want to get cattle booked in to go onto this scheme, then please give Ursula a shout. She'll be the person to talk to. It'll be nice and easy. You make one phone call to Ursula, you tell her how many you've got, when you'd like them get booked in, and which site. Ursula will put them down. She'll then give you she'll let you know when they're getting picked up. If anybody wants to talk, we'll come to you. Just one sec. If anybody wants to talk to George, George's contact details. I'm sure George, you'll have you'd love to have a chat with most of the guys on girls and girls on the phone on the call this evening. And Jess, your number's on there as well. So if anybody wants to get in touch with Jess, those are the contact details. So Ursula, sorry.
Okay, no problem. There was a quick question which I can answer anyway. One was saying, if a bull happens to go over 14 months, will you still accept them? And yes, Morrisons will still accept them. That's not a problem. And a good question actually from our chairman has just come in. How do you think beef sales will change in store when lockdown ends? Can you help us on that one, George?
That's a great question, yeah. I think it's going to be interesting times. Look, beef prices are currently the highest we've seen in many years. And that's largely due to on the back of great beef sales last year, great beef sales at present, and fewer availability. Availability is definitely a key driver at the moment, and there's fewer cattle around and on the market. Retail meat sales is going to be an interesting one, because obviously as lockdown ends and we all start going out for our tea a bit, we're going to the industry is going to be relying a little bit more on the food service, and you could see that retail will slow off a bit. I think that'd be fairly sure of that. So it's going to be interesting times. I think, depending on how the food service sources their meat, will be also a key driver of where the beef price goes. Obviously, if they're getting all the foreign meat, hope they don't. If they do so, then that might have an impact. And obviously, retail sales dropping, it is going to have an impact on what we're doing. But we have, as I said, we have other outlets. We have external sales. We're selling meat elsewhere, so that'll start to open up, and so on. So yeah, good question, and that's the $1 million question: is where things are going to go. But no one knows, and I wouldn't like to say what it is going to do, but I do think it's going to be interesting times when food service does start to open, and we see where the demand comes from.
But I'm pretty sure it'd be fair to say that quality cattle will always be in demand, will they, George?
Yeah. I think there's always a demand for quality cattle, and as I said, look, it's all about just working with someone who's going to look after you. I think in the long run, we're here to stay. We're here for the good times and the bad times, and yeah, they're great at the moment, but there will be a time when things start to slip, and we'll continue to be stable as we always have been.
Fantastic. Ursula, is that everything? Wonderful. Thank you. Right, look, well, that's it. That's 30 minutes. It's amazing how time flies when you're having fun. I'd just like to thank everybody that's joined me as a presenter this evening. Thank you, James. Thank you, Jess. And thank you, George. Thank you, everybody that turned up to watch this. Also, just like to highlight that, this is a continuing partnership that we're working towards. We're very pleased that, we started this journey when we did. And I think this is a partnership that we want to continue and we want to build. So if anybody wants to find out any more, head over to our website, stabiliser.co.uk, head over to Morrisons' website, give George and Jess a shout, give Ursula a shout, give any of us a shout to find out more information. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and we look forward to catching up with you in the near future. Thank you.